GameWorn Radio is on the air.
Hey! Chelsea scores! Popping the Cordova, baby! We're going bowling. Now, let's go on Moose on a Harley. The fire, she scores! LA face with an Oakland booty. Make me a bicycle. They score! Bowmeister paid that man his money.
GameWorn Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Derek, GameWorn Radio, part of GameWorn.us, and we've got quite a handful of callers tonight. We got Bert, Bobby, Doc, Dan, Marco, and Tom, and we're going to be talking about LOAs today. So the first thing I want to do is talk about, what is the point of an LOA? Most people, they want them with their jerseys. They're not, connected to the jersey, but they want them because apparently that LOA will prove to them that that jersey is indeed authentic. Now, my personal problem with an LOA is it's not attached to the jersey. So, it doesn't always go with the jersey. So if I take this LOA, this piece of paper, and put it with this other jersey that looks exactly the same, you don't know what the LOA is talking about. So, really, let's talk about what the point of an LOA is. Now, some of you guys, I'm sure, like LOAs. Some of you hate them. So there's going to be quite a dichotomy. So let's go ahead and open that up. Who wants to take the first crack at that? I choose Marco. Let's talk about it.
Oh my god, damn it. Well, I've had, I'll say that right off the bat, I think that we can almost all agree that everyone here would rather have a photo match than an LOA. But if not, then that's just my own personal opinion. I would much rather have a photo match than an LOA. But I think LOAs, they do serve a purpose. So from personal experience, I've actually been vindicated, refunded, or whatever you would like to call it, on one of my jerseys because I had a faulty LOA, something that I could kind of like hold the seller accountable to. So in that respect, I would like one with every jersey. If I had the choice, obviously, I would like an LOA. And on top of that, if you're ever going to sell your jerseys one day, or you're going to sell this jersey, or whatever jersey you have that has an LOA, it's going to be easier to sell if you have an LOA. So maybe it's not about if you value it, it's more about if the person you're selling the jersey to values it for one reason or another. So I think they do have a purpose. That being said, there are a myriad of reasons that they're absolutely ridiculous, and and I'm sure we'll get into that. So opening statements, there I am.
Perfect. Now, Tom, you had an issue, we'll say, with an LOA as of recently, a paper LOA. Go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about that.
Well, over the summer, I had won a jersey at a online auction through the Lake Erie Monsters website, and I received the jersey, but I didn't receive an LOA, and I'm like, okay, where is it? And they said, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we forgot to give it to you. So when when the games start up, we'll have one typed up for you, and we'll give it to you. So I get it, and they're like, here it is, and it's pretty much like 3 lines saying this jersey was worn by Kevin Shattenkirk during the season, and it was worn during a couple of the games, and it was signed by. It wasn't even signed by the equipment manager. It was signed by the I believe one of the directors, vice president, or something like that. I just got it yesterday, so I haven't really seen who signed it. I just know it wasn't the equipment manager. So.
No, the reason why I wanted to get yours out there, at least your experience with that out there, is there's going to be some places that will go ahead and, they'll reissue you an LOA if it's lost, if it's misplaced, or if they didn't send it in the first place. And then you have some places that absolutely will not, for any reason, print or resend you an LOA. One of those places, example, is Migrate. If you would have to send them the jersey and all that stuff with it to get them to print you an LOA, or so I'm told.
I think that's a much better practice, don't you?
We'll talk about that because I did not mention that we are going to have a little bit of an announcement here about halfway through the show. So we'll see where that conversation goes at that point. But then, like in Tom's case, the LOA didn't go with the jersey. They made the LOA after the fact.
In that case, it's almost like it's toilet paper. I mean, it's not worth. It doesn't tell you anything specific. It's like, well, yeah, we know this jersey came from us. Beyond that, we can't tell you a damn thing. And I've seen both sides. You get some great LOAs, and then I've seen even the Blues in some cases where they've sold supposed to be game worn jerseys, and you get this generic. Usually at their in public auctions during games, but you get this generic. This jersey was signed by the player. If in a couple cases I've seen where it's tagged the inside as a game worn tagging, but the LOA says absolutely nothing about it other than it was signed by whoever.
And that's bullshit.
Yeah, because it doesn't stand for anything but the autograph.
Right. And I think all LOAs should at least have a picture of the jersey that you purchased. Can we agree on that? I mean, it's ridiculous if it doesn't. No.
I think there's a couple of things. I think that's important. I think the picture is ideal, right? I mean, because the picture, especially if there are identifying marks on the jersey that you can match to the letter, I think that makes a big difference. Yeah. The other thing that I've just kind of found is extremely helpful is if you've got an LOA that has some specificity to it. So it's helpful when Migrate puts the tag number on it, or when it has. I've got a few LOAs that have actual wear descriptions down to left sleeve has this many repairs, this many board burns, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the more that you can tie that specific letter to that specific jersey, I'm not going to say the more value the letter necessarily has, but certainly the more helpful it is. Because at the end of the day, a jersey is either game worn or it's not. A letter has nothing to do with it.
Bobby, but those specific LOAs were typically given out by dealers such as Milled and Drop the Gloves, and nowadays, nobody really values those LOAs at all. I mean, you send those in.
I don't know about that. Come on.
No, I mean seriously, Marco. If you send that into Migrate, Migrate puts it in a round file folder. They really do, because there's so many.
If you're asking me if I'd rather buy a jersey that has a Milt LOA or no LOA, I mean, I'm obviously going to choose the jersey with the LOA. So it does hold something, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that it really adds any value necessarily to the jersey, but it can help you sell it. It helps to build a case for the provenance behind that jersey, but that's about it. It is still.
I agree 100%.
To me, the LOA is just a piece of the puzzle, and I do try and stick a little bit more in the vintage. I think modern jersey, it's ridiculous if you don't have an LOA. In the minor league, it gets a little bit shady as we've heard. But a vintage jersey, let's face it, there wasn't LOAs generated until what, the mid '90s, early '90s. What was the first team LOAs that were generated? They were the Flames, right?
The Flames. It's got to be the Flames.
Yeah. So
what was that? Was that '89?
Yeah,
Lanny McDonald signed it.
Early '90s.
Yeah.
So I mean, other than that, I've picked up one in the mid '90s from the Caps, but that was you just showed up at an office and asked for one. They give you one. Hey, what do you want? Okay, well, type it up. Here you go. Here's some letterhead.
The Leafs did it with some starting in '92, '93, and then some others you don't find LOAs at all. Like Ivan Anderson, '92, '93, no LOA, photo match. So, it's what it is. It's weird.
There used to be those NHL letters too that came with like the late '80s All-Star jerseys too, I think.
Now, one of our listeners also brings up a good point. They're talking about the Sharks and how they didn't actually issue LOAs until 08-09. Even now, they don't even issue LOAs anymore. They actually consider their set tagging as an LOA. And that's coming directly from an NHL team.
The Islanders do that now.
Yep.
God, that's a dangerous, slippery slope.
That's the Islanders, though, so...
Yeah.
These guys don't want to be fucked around with saying it has a board burn on the right sleeve and team repair on the bottom. They don't care about that shit. No way.
But doesn't that go back to saying? Yeah, that does that. We've already talked about that. That they don't even know what they're doing anyways half the time. Right. So it's easier to sew a tag on and ship it out the door.
Well, I mean, teams like that think that you're mincing words with them. You know, if you think, oh, game worn, game issued, game used, backup used, you start getting into that. They're like, all right, it's an official game jersey, and that's it. That's all we're going to say, and that
Hey, you know what? We do this to ourselves, though. We already complain about the prices of the jerseys, and now we're like, hey, they should be like, doing a fucking, a full inspection of the jersey and writing a custom LOA. So I mean,
Oh, that would be ideal, but it's not going to happen.
Well, it definitely takes time. I mean, if you want a good, solid LOA, it definitely takes time to produce a document of such. I mean, hands down, it's not, you can get your generic ones like, even Migrate is a little bit more specific, but you got to remember the information that they're putting on there. It's not, open up a doc and hit print. They have to pull off numbers, put a little bit more information on there, such as player information, set information, year, and all that. There's a lot of customization that actually goes into an LOA, so I can see, coming from a team's perspective, why they wouldn't want to do something like that.
Well, even a Migrate LOA just has a set. You need it in partnership with the Pop Report, and I actually have a couple. I mean, when I say a couple, one or two, which say they're game issued, but if you look at the Pop Report and you look at the if you go to like hockey reference, that jersey was actually worn, or vice versa, where one said it was worn and it's really issued. Just if you go do the research through the Pop Report and through hockey reference and see if they actually played. Migrate will, if you send it back into Migrate will straighten that out. But that's about the only place I'd ever seen that would do that.
Yeah, they're a rare breed in that regard. I mean, not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, but I mean, let's face it, they probably get a couple grand in jerseys a year. I mean, it's kind of hard. The trainer just sends a whole lot of these things into these guys, and they got to sort through it. And I've actually had a pre-order jersey that I gotten from Migraine. It's been the wrong jersey, and it was worn one game, and I had been watching this jersey, and it had like 20 repairs on it. I get it. It's got a burn on it. I'm like, that's not set one jersey. So, I mean, they get a lot of stuff in. It's hard for them and their staff to keep track of everything that a team does.
Most definitely.
The best LOA is a photo match.
Agreed.
Well, hands down.
Yeah. And I think even to go even one beyond that, because I think, as technology advances and I really do think as the hobby's already worth a lot of money. And, you hear people complaining all the time they can't afford to get into it, and they can't afford this and they can't afford that. It becomes more lucrative for people to kind of try to pass things off as not what they are. Mm-hmm. So I think even a photo match, I really do believe, I think I'm one of the only people that believe this is going to happen, but I really do believe there's going to be doctored photo matches eventually. So I think that eventually the best kind of photo match I think you can have is to a piece of media, like a hockey card, a program, what have you. I think that will be the ultimate in the future, but for now, photo match is ultimately the best LOA.
Marco, to what extent do you think they're going to be doctored? Are you thinking that the images themselves are going to be doctored, or people take a jersey and customize it to the photos?
No, I don't think that they're going to customize the jersey. I think they're going to be customizing the photos.
Marco, there's been stories of that.
Oh, it's happened before.
Especially
I
in the
think
custom craft
more rampant.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about trying to doctor up a jersey to match photos or description. One thing I've noticed on every jersey, and Migrate can come right out and they'll say to it too, is the stitching on the jersey. Everything's stitched on that jersey. That's your fingerprint.
It is.
You will never, ever, ever, I don't care how many attempts you do, get the exact same stitching in the same spots in the same way as another jersey. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
Well, Barry even said that in his interview.
Yeah. Yes,
he did.
Yeah, but what are you gonna are you ever gonna find a photo or a video of like an 80s gamer that's gonna show it down to the stitching marks? No. So the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, the resolution on 80s pictures is not gonna do it. Yeah.
Right. So
the resolution on 90s photos isn't good enough.
Right. Yeah. So for the new stuff, that's fine. But for the old stuff, which is where all most of the money is, it doesn't mean shit.
I mean, for the old stuff, it's kind of a crapshoot. You have to know what you're doing, and that's one of the things we're trying to do is help everybody kind of connect to everybody, because there are those experts in there, and the problem is we don't want to have the experts fall to the wayside, and now that information that they know is lost. we're trying to collect all that information. That way it stays with the hobby. I heard a story of somebody that did like really good authentication and issued out fantastic letters, got in a car accident, and now the program shit. It's continuity that we need.
Can we agree that the worst LOAs are the ones that were issued by the players that wore said jersey?
They don't know what they're wearing.
They really are.
Oh.
Hey, can you look at this hockey stick and tell me if you used it?
I'll give you $50, and I have 200 sticks we can look at. Okay.
Absolutely terrible. I hate it when it's or the stories where it's like the player typed it up for this person because like 10 years ago he got it from them from the locker room. Like,
right.
Don't even say something like that. Honestly, if you have a story like that, like I got it from this player at this time, or it was handed down to me personally, or the equipment manager gave it to me. Keep it to yourself, because honestly, for me, that's a red flag. If you tell me you got this directly from the equipment manager because you're such good friends with him, I'm probably not going to buy that jersey.
No, but even a lot of vintage jerseys, they'll say donated by player. That means nothing to me, because players have a lot of shit. They don't know when and what they've worn, and Yeah.
I guess is it different?
There's been stories of players actually selling their jerseys that were just replicas, that were just autographed.
Because they just said, didn't Classic or one of the auctions just have a big Brett Hull lot, and it all came from him? Supposedly it was all worn by him 2 different years. I don't know how much he actually kept. Would even something like that make you nervous?
No, I think that would put me at ease, to be quite honest with you.
It's like Martin Brodeur's stuff, all that stuff that everybody knows Martin Brodeur's been harboring and stuff, and now he's like peddling it through Steiner. Like, I would trust that, because Brodeur would take his stuff off, put it in his closet, and it's there. He's not gonna, go down to the thrift shop, buy a set of pads, and be like, oh, I might be able to make money off of this later. He's just not gonna do something like that. No player's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go buy an authentic of one of my jerseys.
Players that would do that, like Chris Nyland, like back in his like cocaine days and shit like that. I'm pretty sure, or like an 8-ball or something like that. He'd be like, hey, he's wearing like Knuckles Nyland gloves, right? Trade you for an 8-ball. He would do that.
Like I said, that Mike Gartner I got had a player LOA, legit Mike Gartner, autograph and whatnot. Complete shit when I got it.
Whoa! What was this? What?
It was a Gartner Rangers I got that had an LOA that was considered a Mike Gartner LOA. And you look at it, and it's on Rangers letterhead. It was during the Cup year. But it was obviously, you could tell by that it was only would have been worn maybe a game or 2, but I was like, okay, well, maybe it was a playoff, series or something. Get it, and it's not hemmed like he usually had it. It's and it's a legit Mike Gartner, because I got plenty of Gartner autographs, because it's a pretty distinct autograph. But the LOA was shit, complete shit.
There's a lot of chatter going on the feed. One of the most recent comments is somebody's questioning that a lot of 90s Pens jerseys could be quite questionable because the equipment manager was doing a lot of backdoor deals.
Yeah, Steve Lattin was notorious for that.
Or the abs too.
And at that point, really, what if it's a shady deal in the first place? Like, what good is an LOA going to do on top of that? I mean, you'd really want to have a little bit firmer documentation. It's all about the firmness of the documentation. An LOA only gets you so far. The more documentation you have, the better, right?
I have a backdoor jersey, man, and I looked at it. You do your assessment. You look at if there's a repair or some repairs, customizations, and you're like, well, if they faked it, they did a really good job. I mean, I was able to photo match it after, but the backdoor jerseys, especially in the 90s and the 80s and even the 70s, like that was just part of the game, So
I think for the non-migrate teams, I think it's still pretty common. I mean,
yeah.
It happens all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We just got to watch out that we don't get in a situation like I read with what was it, the New York Giants, where you had Eli Manning on something where he would put on a jersey and scuff it up, not in a game, and then they'd sell it as a game used or some shit like that.
That's really bad.
I have a Rod Brindamore Hurricanes jersey that was worn in 06, 07, and it has the date of the game that it was worn inscribed in the fight strap with the trainer's initials. And I can't for the life of me figure out why he would wear one jersey in one game that season. It's not like he did anything that season.
I can tell you why right now.
Tell me why.
Charity. Because a lot of teams, what they do, and then the Leafs are notorious, especially back in like before the migrate program and all this shit. They would get these museums and stuff like that, be like, oh, we're a non-profit, give us a game-worn jersey, and this and that, and we'll auction it off, or we'll put it in our museum. So the teams were like, okay, well, fuck, we don't want to look like dickheads, so I guess we'll fucking do it. So they would just strap like a fucking jersey on the guy, and they would wear it for one game, and they would have like really little wear, and then they would get the trainer and player to be like, oh, sign the fight strap and this and that, and they'd be like, oh, here you go, and the player typed you an LOA and this. And I look at Newport Sports Museum is like the most awesome shitty fucking museum you'll ever see in your life for game worn stuff. Sorry, it's not even business anymore, so I don't care. But they had a bunch of fucking shady ass shit like that, and to the point where unless they're like in the business of doctoring up jerseys and LOAs, their stuff probably is legit. You'll never photo match because they're all like one game wonders, So I know that shit happened a lot.
Yeah,
back in the day.
It's crazy. I got lucky on the Brindamore because that one game happened to be a game that was photographed for Getty, and so I got lucky. But it caught me off guard because one game that year just didn't make a lot of sense.
No, they just do it for charity reasons and I don't want to sound like a fucking dickhead, but like,
too late.
Too late, honestly. But like,
says Mr. Mexico.
Like, kids die of cancer, and then oh, here's a jersey. They give them the jersey, and it's like who the fuck knows where it goes after that, right? And what happens and what the story is, but that happens all the time.
Yeah, I got one exactly like that, Marco.
Yeah.
So I got a Berube exactly like that. It has wear, and it was auctioned by the team. I have no clue when it was worn. So.
Okay, so we've had some pretty good discussion about the pros and cons of LOAs and things like that. Do you guys want to know what's been going on this week? That's my big announcement.
It's got to be huge.
It's not really that big.
Can I take a guess?
I don't think you're gonna get it.
Designer bought GameWorn.us.
I don't think that would ever happen, man.
They can't afford it.
All right, so the reason why we're actually talking about LOAs is we had something come up last week with GameWorn.us. We have a jersey on consignment, right? Well, it doesn't have an LOA, but it's a migrate jersey. It's hands down a migrate jersey. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, but you can't get migrate to reprint the LOA, at least not, for what it's worth. So, that got a handful of collectors talk and things like that, and one of the things that they asked us to do is start issuing LOAs ourselves. And I was kind of on the fence about it, primarily because I think paper is stupid. But I did go and do a bunch of research and things like that. And one of the things that I found is I can actually digitally sign a document and you can verify the signature, but you can't modify that document, otherwise it loses the signature. So if it's not verified, it's not been modified by the proper sources, right? So we're looking at doing digital LOAs, and the convenience to that is the amount of information that we can plug into them. Right now we've got a couple templates doctored up, and I think they look really good. But they'll have complete description details as far as like every information that you would want to know about the jersey is down to the wear. Then we'd have a series of pictures of them, and one of the big things that we would want to do is just take pictures of all the stitching. That way, if you get this jersey, this LOA is for that jersey because you can match it on the description, you can match it on the stitching, pretty much everything. So, you don't have to send an LOA with the jersey. It's a public document at that point. There's a appendix for photo matches, video matches, and all these pictures are things that we would be hosting. That way you can access them at a later point. So if you're trying to sell it, you just say, go here. You can download and verify the LOA that they wrote up, verified it. And then one of the final things that we want to do is put in a couple different things. We've got a section in there for other LOAs. So what we do is we would scan in the paper documents that come with them. That way you always have that document. So it's not like, oh, I lost this and now it's gone for good. Well, at least you have a digital copy of it somewhere and it's digitally signed. And then we would have a transaction history. So anybody that would actually want to, they can submit their transaction details, and we would just add your name on there as the next person that owned that jersey. So, you know, you would at least see whose hands the jersey's been in. And then you can be like, hey, buddy, did you have this jersey and did it look like this? Yeah, man, that was my jersey. The LOA's right. It's all good. So, I mean, it's something that we kind of have coming down the line. We got a few complete right now. Haven't distributed them yet because I just want to make sure everything's like cool with them. But I think it'd be pretty big and advantageous, especially the whole fact that it'd be, you know, a living document, if you will. As we find out more information about that jersey, you can submit it, we can update the LOA, and then you can get into like revisions on the LOA.
That is next level shit, man. That's like everything that we complained about. You were pretty much like, fuck you. Like here's the solution to it all. So good on you, Derek. That's wicked, buddy.
Derek,
Nice.
this is the killer app to migrate not sharing their migrate reports, right? This is great. Where's it gonna live?
Right now I am hosting all the documentation that I have on Google Docs, which I can make public shareable so you can view it, but you can't modify it. And the way you would authenticate a key is, so say I sign it, right? You have to have my private key to sign it, which is obviously I'm the only person who has that key. So when I sign it, it stamps an image on there with my signature on it and GameWorn.us, and you can download the graphic. You can download the entire document, and when you open it up, it says, you know, I can't verify the signature. However, if you do want to verify the signature, you download the public key, so it has to match. So what happens is if somebody wants to try and copy this digital document, all you need to do is download my public key. You would parse it, open it up, and if it's not signed and says this is a verified signature from this person, you know it's no good. Plus, you can also go onto our server or onto our drive, pull down the LOA that we have on file, and if it doesn't match, it doesn't match. You know, there's no point to have it, at least in the program. There'd be no point to have one printed or to yourself. You don't need to download it to your computer. You can go fetch it whenever you want.
How are you gonna issue them? So for example, like if I've got I'm staring at my closet full of Hurricanes jerseys. None of them have, well, some of them have team LOAs, but none of them have serial numbers or anything. How would they get added to the system?
One of the things we're going to be doing is actually sourcing for experts. So, you know, we don't want to issue one to something that we can't verify. Once we verify it, you know, we'll go ahead and write it up. There's a couple different ways that we can do it. We can work closely with you, and it would be kind of a lengthy process to do it, but we've already done it with our first LOA that we wrote. It was for a Zubris jersey from the Washington Capitals. It was that migrate jersey that doesn't have an LOA. Obviously, we knew without a shadow of a doubt, based on pictures that we received of it, that, you know, it's a migrate jersey. So we felt comfortable enough with the people that were involved to go ahead and issue one out. So we requested a series of pictures. They were sent to us, and we wrote it up accordingly. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can send it to us, and it would kind of alleviate the tediousness on your part as far as we need a picture of this, scan this, send this. You know, if you have any photo matches, send those, because we put those in the documentation as well. You know, if you send it to us, it would be put on us. Now, obviously, this is time-consuming process and things like that, so we're looking, you know, to figure out what we would want to do as far as, like, if you wanted to convert your documentation to digital LOAs, like a pricing plan of some point. Because I'll tell you what, man, it is time-consuming. I mean, I've been working on a couple for my own jerseys here, but that just goes down to how much detail we're getting into and how much documentation we're following up on. Like, I'm doing my Nyquist one right now. Obviously, I know for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, it's real because I bought it. I was there. I got it from Detroit. So I have all that information in there, that GameWorn.us was on site and purchased it and blah, blah, blah. But it's also video matched. So I have screen caps of the video match in the LOA. It's photo match. So I have examples of the photo match in there. We've got the stitching patterns in there. I mean, that's the beautiful part about a digital LOA is multiple pages, as much information as you can possibly throw at the son of a bitch.
Can I interject and say?
Yeah, fire away.
Lost him.
Is he gone completely?
He dropped.
Yeah, he dropped. When he gets back on, we'll go ahead and see what he was trying to get at us about. But I mean, I've gone over quite a few handfuls of revisions and things like that, and there's some people that are not crazy about it. They don't really care, and I didn't really care about LOAs myself. It's just kind of something that I can do. But there's some people that are like, that's kind of what we need. So, I mean, we're throwing it out there. We'll see if it takes ground. But I mean, I'm hoping to have a good demo LOA digitally signed posted here in the next couple weeks.
Now, is there going to be a link through the website to get to the database?
Oh yeah. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create the Google Drive will be publicly accessible with all the folders and stuff, and then there's gonna be an index, so you can search, Control F through the index, find, the exact jersey you're looking for if it's in there.
How will you search for it? I mean, are you going to issue some kind of tracking number or something of the sort?
Yeah, we're going to be documenting LOA numbers, so like the first one we issue is number 1 and so on. And then at that point, you just do a control find for your specific information. Obviously, the person who has the jersey is going to be like, this is GameWorn.us LOA number 52. And then you can go and pull that LOA down and you can compare it with our index and things like that.
If you want to enter a jersey into the index that is a migrate jersey that has the migrate letter with it already, would all you need to do then would be to take a photo of the migrate tag and send you a scan of the letter, for example, or what would that entail?
We would obviously want to verify that, yes, indeed, it's a migrate jersey, which really isn't that hard to do because they have the copy proof tags. Yep. So, as long as it's not a group one, it's pretty simple. But the things that we're going to want is we're going to want anything that's stitched on it. We're going to want pictures of that, close-up pictures so we can see the stitching patterns because we want to document the stitching patterns because, again, those are like your thumbprint. And there's a question out there to expand on stitching patterns, and there are patterns that are easily identifiable. When you stitch into a jersey, you have to open the stitching and close the stitching, which creates a specific pattern. Also, you're pushing down and pulling through the threading, which can create patterns, especially if you're doing it through like tackle and twill. So like we've got a Polkin in right now that we've photo matched to the stitching on the numbers on the back because of the way the white part of the jersey was pulled through the red part of the number where it was stitched. And you can see the distinct patterns of white, 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 nothing, 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 white, nothing, white, nothing. It's a distinct pattern, and that's your thumbprint. So we're going to want pictures of that. We're going to want a LOA scan. If you've photo matched it, we're going to want any of the photo matching documentation that you have. We'll obviously try to photo match it if we can do it quickly. If we can't, obviously photo matching is a service that people offer, we offer, they offer. But we'll add as much information as possible, probably ask you, where'd you get it from? And obviously migrate is going to be the first one. If we don't know like the transaction history in between, like say you and migrate, if you don't know any of the pertaining information, we just put unknown because knowledge is power. If we know, we know. If we don't, we're going to let you know we don't know. So I mean, an LOA is not always about we know absolutely everything about the jersey. It's here's what we do know about this particular item and how comfortable do you feel about that. That's what an LOA is.
What about a form that when someone wants to send in, they would fill out the form and then you have to go back and forth with emails?
I mean, the tough part is I don't think everybody's going to be able to submit firsthand all the information that we would want to document in the LOA. So I mean, there's not going to be any way around, corresponding frequently about the jersey. But then, I mean, that just goes with having a better LOA. I mean, what do you want? Do you not want one? Do you want one? I mean, we're not telling everybody, oh, you should definitely do this. This is for the people that want to get involved and have them. I mean, the guys who have approached us about doing this and starting this program, they just wanted to have something that was traceable, sound, and contains all the information. This kind of
for someone to follow. For someone to follow like a checklist, someone says, "Okay, take this picture, take that picture."
Oh, you can definitely compare previous LOAs that we have. That'll get you on the right track. But there's still probably going to be some information. So, I mean, it will be a handshake, between everybody. It's going to be what we're trying to. It's really an open line of communication. What it's going to generate. And Marco just wrote in to say his phone died. And he's questioning what do I want to say to people that question how long we'll be in business and what the LOA will be worth in 20 years. And my retort to that is, if I'm not in business, we're not in business. I mean, you're not going to predict, like Migrate could go out of business and what goes on with that. Really, it comes down to the proof of your research. So what we're doing is we're throwing everything that we know into this document. So we've done the research. Here's the information. It's a lot better than saying this jersey was worn by this player on this date. We're saying this jersey was worn by this player on this date, and we know that because. There might not be anything after that because. But if there is, the research has been done.
Yeah. You guys hear me?
It's that deep documentation, I think, that'll help. I mean, really help advance the hobby, especially is being able. It's all, I guess. The value is what it is, but when you have in anything, the more concise and the more detailed documentation you have, it just makes everything so much better. And then you also have in Derek, it sounds like in everything you're wanting to do is you'll be able to see or know who it's been sold to. So there's kind of a chain of custody, I guess, for a better word.
Can I say something? Sorry, I got cut off earlier, guys. I apologize. Derek, a few questions. So, wait, where did I get cut off? Because I was trying to big up Derek on the fact that he's putting his name out there and his GameWorn.us out there and doing this, which should have been done a long time ago by a lot of other companies. So kudos to you, Derek, first of all. You guys can hear me?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, two questions. So, one, what do you say to the guy that says, what's the LOA worth in 20 years? When your company's not around anymore and, when I don't have access to, any kind of digital or any sites hosting these digital records and, what do I do there?
Well, the photos are not only going to be in the document that you can download to your computer, but they're going to be on the repository. So everybody can download the repository. I mean, they're just pictures.
Whose repository?
That'd be ours.
Well, that's the thing. And listen, I'm going to try to burst the bubble here because this is going to happen with every company, but it's a question that every collector, any reasonable smart collector's ever had an LOA or been issued an LOA, kind of ask themselves, hey, what's this LOA worth in 10 or 15 years or 20 years or even 30 or 40 when I want to sell the jersey? Is this company going to be around anymore? And am I going to be able to authenticate it against this company? Because there have been a lot of companies in the past, and we know this as collectors, that, while they're there, it's great, but when they're gone, it's kind of like, oh, well, when you're trying to deal with new collectors, I have a LOA from, company X, and they're like, well, who the fuck is that?
That was one of my big concerns when they approached me about starting a program similar to this. And
Sorry, Derek, did Migrate approach you about this?
No, this was a bunch of private collectors that were, they've listened to the radio shows and had some inkling of ideas and wanted to buy jerseys, but an LOA for international collectors, LOAs are actually a pretty big deal, like a really big deal. And some won't even consider like a Migrate jersey that doesn't have an LOA with it. So this kind of helps them out, and they like the idea of it. So like a lot of it's due to international collectors and things like that. But when it comes down to like the program that we're generating ourselves, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to be like, look, I'm saying this is real, or GameWorn.us is the hands down verifier of jerseys. That's not what I'm about. What the idea is to pack this digital documentation full of stuff that would put your mind at ease. Like if it's an empty, like if we don't have enough information on it as to here's why it's real, you can trust it as far as you can throw it. It's more or less saying somebody submitted this information to us. These are what our findings are.
So it's going to be around as long as your company's around for, basically.
Yeah.
There are no guarantees for the future. And not nitpicking here, but there are no guarantees in 20 years that you guys, GameWorn.us, is still going to be around. You'd be able to take questions on, the LOA or anything like that, right?
I'm trying to design the LOA and pack it with information that you would not need to talk to us about it for any reason.
I see.
What's your pricing structure?
I don't know yet.
So like for the guys that are regulars on this like radio show, though, that's pretty much like, hey boys, yeah, I'll write you LOAs on all your jerseys because you guys are fucking awesome, right?
Well, you guys will get it on the cheap, you guys is like my regulars. You bring it to the show and you makes it entertaining, We handles you on the cheap.
Okay, one more question. Oh, Derek, you're gonna fucking. Okay, what does it mean when I have a jersey? I have a Red Wings jersey. It's got Derek Whitaker or GameWorn.us LOA. To the tits, right? You've done your research. You've sourced out your expert guy, and then I find out it's bogus. Not that you guys are trying to rip me off or anything like that, but it just happens to be not what you said it was. What happens at that point? Does anything happen at that point?
Nothing. I mean, we give you the information as per, and for us, at least in any third-party authentication, what you're doing is you're paying for them to do the research and use the knowledge. In my opinion, I really don't see much legal recourse in any grounds. Even like if Migrate were to say, and I've heard people say that Migrate is, or I shouldn't say that. I've heard people say that an authenticator has claimed that a jersey is real when they've proven that it's not. One of the things that we want to do is not necessarily like if we
you
can't.
just want to say your opinion. It's a letter. You basically want to issue letters of opinion.
Exactly. It's more, and when we were actually, I was batting around the idea with not using the word authenticity. But we do have strong language in the first part of the document that does say it is in our opinion. We make that explicitly clear that this is our opinion. It's opinionated.
Was my question, Derek. Who's actually going to do the authenticity on it? Because I think on a modern jersey, this is fine. It's when you get into the vintage stuff, there's a gray area of people want to know who's doing the authentication of a jersey, because I don't know. Because we've all heard stories of sitting into said auction house, they allegedly authenticate it, and then they get it, and it's not what they think it is, or I think that's where it kind of runs into for me.
We all know the auction houses, though. That really do just a quick overview of the jersey and are like, yeah, looks good, and that's it. That's all they do, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, they give you a great history of the player's career over the span of 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh, is that something that I'm missing? Do I need to put one of those in our LOA? Here's what the player did. No, not a chance. You're crazy.
Come on, Theo Fleury. drug addiction, alcohol abuse, all that stuff's got to be in the LOA.
It is because of our opinion, or in our opinion, it is because of this drug addiction that we think that this jersey is real.
Especially if you find like booze stains or like cocaine residue, or because that actually is hard.
Yeah, that's not
You forgot Graham James in there too. So
yeah.
Would that be post-game use then?
Oh, definitely, of course.
I don't know.
May or
For
may not.
guys like Fuhrer, he was probably like doing it like in between periods. I would consider that game use. You know.
Is that a performance-enhancing drug?
I don't know. I've seen some backup goalies use chew during a game. So.
Wow, really?
Yes, and
spit that shit on the ice?
No, they have a cup back. They're sitting back in their hat. And no one can see them. Usually, when there's, I don't know, probably a couple hundred people in the crowd, they'll sit there and they'll spit in their cup and put it down. You can just see the big wad in their mouth, and I'm just like, what happens if that goalie just gets injured and you're like, oh shit, I gotta spit that shit out and get out there, you know?
Goalies are a different breed, I guess.
Well, now back to what we were talking about though is who's authenticating this stuff. When we have to source to a collector, what we would do is have them create a signing document. So like when I sign, it puts my signature on the document. So when you sign it, like if we source it to a collector, we'll type everything up and then request that they sign it digitally and then give us the public key. They keep the private key. And
so again, though, how do you select your authenticators?
Trusted people in the hobby.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all pretty well aware who's on their shit.
That's reasonable, right? I think that's completely reasonable.
Like you would know, you know, if you had a question on, say, a Penguins jersey, that you could go to Joe, and Joe would take a look at it and be like, yeah. So I mean, everybody kind of already has an idea. Like, these are the people that we go to.
For sure.
The nice thing about what I think we're going to be trying to do is we know who we need to go to. That's going to give us a great opinion, which is great. We're going to document that opinion, and we're going to tell you who, and that's great for the, for like the newer collectors that have no idea who the hell we are.
Any recourse for the, because I imagine that you're going to get a fee, and then the experts or the authenticators or what have you, whoever you source it out to for their opinion, in terms of saying, yes, in my opinion, this looks real to me, or no, this is what's wrong. Do those guys obviously get a cut? What kind of a cut are we talking about for those guys, or a percentage? You know any of the numbers yet?
No, the pricing structure is going to be something. Obviously, we want to keep this low because we want the program to be nice and large, and we're not trying to do this to like make millions of dollars here.
Are you kidding me? Come on, I want to make millions of dollars for sure. Give me your lease stuff, man. I'll authenticate it.
We're GameWorn.us has a mission statement, and we're trying to abide by it. And
that's ridiculous. You got to make as much money as possible. We need to grow this thing so that we're all millionaires.
Look, when you're as loaded as Derek already is, and you can put a rink in your basement.
That's not loaded. That's just proper planning. I really don't have that much money. Like, I saved up for a long time because I knew that was gonna happen.
Derek's building the rink in his basement. Okay, that should tell you something right there. It's not like it's not an official outdoor rink, or he doesn't have the kind of property or space. It's a rink in his basement. Okay, the guy's
took a 401k loan.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty damn close.
He'll just charge you $200 an hour for ice time in his basement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and a nice 17 by 25 sheet. No, but yeah, our mission statement, you know, we're in this for the collector. You know, it's one of the big things that GameWorn.us actually started, is because of, you know, a lot of the companies that are trying to turn that profit, people that were trying to control information. You know, if you would question them or their practices, you would no longer be allowed to associate with the community. Basically Nazism, and we're completely against that. Really, all we're trying to do is generate some money so I can keep the servers up, keep the website paid for, potentially create new programs in the future and future web development, because web development is expensive, and even fucking file our fucking taxes, for God's sakes. Do you know how much money it costs to file fucking taxes? Like, I pay out of my pocket to file taxes for this company. So, I mean, that's really what the motive is to try and fucking break even, you know?
Derek, important question here. How do you market GameWorn.us so that it is a actual name in the hobby with the likes of Classic, GameWorn.net, Migrate? How do you get to that point?
Well, one of the things is we always say that we are a website by collectors for collectors. So really, it's you guys. If you think about it, it's not just me. It's you guys.
If it's us, have you had or have you thought about having an expo?
We've kind of tagged on a couple here and there, like the Toledo Detroit show. We kind of popped in on that, and we kind of, try to make an appearance here and there, but we haven't had one specifically because the problem with that is trying to get everybody from all the corners of not only the world but the United States to one location. It can be very expensive on a personal standpoint. Like this year, I'm not even able to go to the one I really wanted to go to, which is Paul's out in the West Coast. And that's because, personal issues come up. I've got a new son and it's expensive to get out there. It's great that I have a rink in my basement, but I can't afford a damn plane ticket out to the West Coast, man.
So what are the next expos at your house?
I've got the space. We could cover the plastic sheets. I could probably fit a good, I would say 20, 30 people with displays down here.
You're thinking small picture, man. We need big picture. We need big picture.
I have 4 acres of land.
There you go. Now we're talking. Listen, I have a bias, obviously. I am either tuned into the radio show or I'm part of the radio show, as we all do. But I think that part of the reason we do it, part of the reason we back you on your, even the LOA stuff that you just bring up today that I didn't know about personally. I don't think anyone on the radio show knew about, so it's kind of a curveball. But it's about honesty, and it really is about the fact that it is for the collector, and we want to see you do well. So I really do think though it needs to get to the point where it's not just a break-even proposition. It has to get to the point where it's completely legitimized to the point where you can call it, a corporation, but a viable business that garners the respect of new collectors and people that are new to the hobby. And that's where I think we miss out a lot of the time.
Well, it's a stepping stone to get there.
It is.
I mean, the first step is trying to get it so I don't have to pay out of pocket for what we're doing. The second step is, trying to figure out additional programs. I mean, one of my big things is I would love to start turning a profit. That way I can reinvest in the website. There's so many programs in my head that I want to do. And I've got a friend I know that can do PHP, and we've been talking a lot about doing different projects and just being able to make the community better and sourcing information. That's what it's all about, but it takes money to do stuff like that, as opposed to, say, somebody else that you may be familiar with that, didn't develop on the website pretty much at all for 10, 15 years up until the point where they felt their hand was forced because they thought somebody else was coming in to take over their turf. That's kind of what it's about. So, I mean, we are looking to the future, or at least I'm looking to the future. I view our community as being centric. Like we need to have a centric place that we all support, that we want to go to, that we feel comfortable with, and that's just kind of what we're going to. And you aren't going to get everybody. You're not going to please everybody. I've got people saying, oh, well, I've been on this other website and screw yours and whatever. And what's funny is not too long after one specific instance, somebody said that to me. Like, I'll never be on your website the way you write your articles, which I write my articles as a matter of opinion. That's what an article is. It's supposed to be. Yeah, and that's why we have a radio show. Everything's a matter of opinion, is it not? But somebody's like, I don't like the way you write your articles or something. And then GameWorn.net changed their format. And they came back like, dude, I'm sorry I was such a dick. I like your website. I'm going to visit it frequently, Like, it's just stuff like that. Like, and that's kind of why we do what we do, or at least I do what I do.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think we have to get people out of the old way of thinking, especially the old collectors who are still married to the old websites and the old auction houses. Because I think it's toxic for the hobby. I really do, because those websites, those companies, we know they don't have the collectors in mind. You know, they're about turning a profit, and I understand that. They're a company, but it's gotten beyond that. It's gotten to the point where it's not legitimate, it's not honest, and that's what the hobby should really be about. And it doesn't bring people together the way it used to because of greed, primarily. And I think that's the one refreshing thing about GameWorn.us, and that's why I attend the radio show, and because it's not something anyone else is doing, and you certainly won't see those websites doing it because they don't give a shit about the actual hobby. A lot of the time, it's just about, can I turn a profit or not? And that's why I think that it is important that, the programs Derek's is talking about. And listen, I am a fan in terms of what the agenda is and in terms of what the visions and the values are, but I don't have any, bias here. I'll be as critical as the next person, but I think it's important that we get on board with this stuff.
I think the more questions people have that force us to think about what we're doing only make it better.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. I mean, I think that what this comes down to is the importance of a community of knowledge. I mean, that's what we all do. That's why we're sitting on this podcast right now, is because, everyone brings a different perspective. Everyone brings a different expertise and different background. And so by creating this kind of a database, it gives us a place to capture that knowledge and then keep it and store it and then use it so that someone can benefit from it, years down the road. And certainly not just someone, but any one of us.
Well, and I guess too, when the motivation, and like it's been said, when the motivation is not money, it's about progressing the hobby and getting the best documentation you can get, more people are going to buy into it, more people are going to help with it, and it's good for everybody. It's not about lining anybody's pockets. It's about just making everything better and more reliable.
One of the challenges will be, Derek, as you kind of figure out what your cost structure is going to be, will be to maintain that attitude or that brand around it not being all about the money, because I think as soon as there is any level of monetary requirement or involvement, people start to question that. Certainly we saw that with the shift around the other forum.
That's why we try to keep everything that we do very low.
Why do you guys say the other? Just say the name of the fucking forum. It's GameWorn.net, for fuck's sakes. GameWorn.net. Everyone knows it. Come on.
But if you take a look at all the services that we offer, everything's a fraction of the rates of everybody else. And that's part of my way to keep myself in check is to, when I look at the rates and the amount of work that I put behind it or the different things that we do and then compare that with the rates, it reminds me of why I do it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was taking a couple of notes, just things that came to mind around letters right before the call, and I still have pulled up the Migrate page and their pricing structure for authentication. That's a business in and of itself, and not an insignificant one. I mean, there's certain jerseys for which you're going to pay $450 plus just for LOA. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah, if you go on our site and browse around a little bit, you'll notice like our consignment rates are really low. Like we're talking 5% consignment rates. We do photo and video matching. We try to say all of our services are the cheapest in the business. That's really, what we're trying to do. And it takes a lot of work to do what we're doing. And when you say, all right, I put this much time and we're only making this much money, it really makes you think like the reason why that is the way it is because of what we want to do. So it really helps keep the mission in check. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but for you guys, if you guys want to stick around, I'll upload the template of what we're using in one of our first LOAs so you can kind of see what the description is, and hopefully we'll be releasing something like that in the next couple weeks. Cool?
Cool.
Sounds great.
All right, so we'll go ahead and pound this thing out, and I'll let you guys check out that LOA once I get it uploaded to the group. All right?
All right.
Want to thank all of our listeners for listening in, and anybody who's listening in the future, thanks. Check us out on Facebook and GameWorn.us. Thank you.